Okay, it looks like Matchmaker queued us up a lot faster than we thought. That's excellent. We're going to do a battle with 5 RT on one side and no heavies on the other. And it'll be in a map that you've had 12 times in a row. So,
Thank you, Paul.
we have stuff on that. Come on. I'm Paul Barnett, Director of the Community for North America. The people all around you are all part of the wonderful Wargaming North America team who have been putting their heart and soul into making things cool. This is our presentation, and the people we have here, we have Thane. This is Thane over here. Sit with Thane. I have to get this right because we're all very particular about it. Your official title?
Product Director.
So what does that actually mean? It means that Thane's job is to ensure that tanks worldwide make sense. Very hard job. So how do you do that? You go get someone who has worked on amazingly big games. Call of Duty, for instance, looked after that. Destiny as well, looking after that from Activision. And what he's been doing since he got here is he's been helping Minsk and helping the regions figure out how we can have sane updates, how we can put the right things in the right place, things like mods being actually incorporated into the game, making the tank lines make more sense. He's actually shifted a ton of rocks and foundational stuff, which has utterly changed the way the company's been behaving and what it's been doing. And it's not because the people in Minsk didn't want to do a great job. They do. They're lovely. They work really, really hard. They just needed to be coordinated with a worldview, and that's what he helps bring. And he's here, and he's going to talk about all sorts of stuff tanky, which is really, really great. I like everything that he ends up bringing to us, and I also like the fact he allows us to come and vote every now and then.
So product director, is that like a product management role or a technical architectural role? Or?
So I was the executive producer just prior to this, and now basically running development and publishing worldwide for the game.
If you're going to ask a question like that, please don't, otherwise I'll never get through it all. We have a Q&A. You have to let me say the question again, otherwise the camera won't pick it up, and then my cameraman will tell me off. Helping you out there. So that's Thane, very important. And Andre, who's Andre? There he is. Get a round of applause, Andre. Andre is lead producer. He comes here via Ubisoft. So you've got lots of Assassin's Creeds in you, right? So very Assassin Creedy. And the job that he was brought over to do, very, very important. It's to ensure that, so a lot of the powerhouse original creators, people like Slava, who are re-engaged in tanks and are bringing all their power, full force to it. He has all these ideas and beauty and energy about how to make tanks great. It then has to be translated so that it can then go to the production team, so the production team can actually put it in the right order so that it all makes sense and it all works, and it matches with the production schedule. It's an incredibly difficult job. It requires someone who is willing to do it, and has the ability and skills, and that's what he's doing, and he's here to tell you about all that sort of stuff. So these are the people we've brought. What we're going to do, and what I'm going to do is hand you over to Thane and Andre, who can now start telling you stuff. Yes, he's going to do that bit. That's his bit.
All right. Thank you, Paul. And thanks for having us. Thanks for everybody here, actually, for coming out to do this. You know, as Paul said, not only is the North American office really eager and interested and aware of the importance of making sure that we have a more direct connection with the players, but that's something that we all share worldwide. You saw the beginning of this really a few months ago around GDC timeframe with a player event that we hosted in the Emeryville office, where Paul and Victor were talking for quite a while with a number of members of the community, and this is kind of the continuation of that. We realize, you know, in the past, there hasn't really been a good dialogue, a good two-way communication between the players and the development team. Part of that is time zones. You know, it's really far away and whatever. But you know, realistically, it's more than that. It just hasn't been something that we've really been good at, that we haven't really chased, that we haven't gone after, and it's incredibly important to us to do that. So we want to get in and spend more time and talk about what we're doing, what we're thinking, why we're doing things, tell you about kind of the stuff that we intend to do on the game over time, as well as the intent of certain things that you've played or experienced over the last, especially over the last 6-8 months in particular. So that's kind of it. Also, since there's a number of people in Minsk who obviously can't be here, but who are incredibly important to this, we brought along a little message from some of the guys on the team. For a lot of them, this is actually their first time on camera, and English is not their native language, so I'm really appreciative of all the effort.
By far.
So I'm appreciative of the effort that it took for the guys to kind of have the bravery to come on and do this. But if we could roll that.
Hi guys, hello Seattle, nice to meet you here, and greetings from Minsk. This year we celebrate an anniversary of tanks, and we can't just ignore this fact.
So we're trying different styles, different mechanics to make our game really interesting for our players and to provide new experience for them.
We are focusing on the infrastructure and server improvements for further upcoming features development.
We constantly work with player feedback, because improving our maps would not be possible without your feedback on them.
So provide us with your ideas, your game mechanics that you want to hear and see in the game. Let's make the game better together.
To battle, my friends!
Thank you for being with us for all this time, and have a great show.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So the Paul notes this. Some of you may have caught the Seahawks helmet and on Kirill's desk. That is not just a prop that we threw in there. Both Kirills actually are big fans of American football. The other Kirill had the good sense for a Seattle-themed event not to wear his Larry Fitzgerald jersey. But yeah, the guys. There's actually it's strange, Paul. There's an American rules football league that Minsk has a team. And the guys, at some point, it's actually just wrapped up. In early spring, I'm going to get out. I got to go see a match with the guys. Yeah, but so yeah, that is actually the Hawks are Kirill P's team, and that's not him just pandering.
Barely made him to remove that shirt, by the way.
Yeah. So really quickly, I think before we get going much further, just want to set kind of some rules of the road for doing this. This is really different. This is a new process for us. It's a big deal. We're all still getting used to it. We're all kind of feeling each other out on this. We're going to let you in on our thought process. We're going to let you in a lot earlier than you guys have ever been about what we're doing, why we're doing it, what we're thinking, what we're imagining, what we're hoping for, and all that. But this is also really important. Every so often, you're going to hear us say things like, well, we can't, we'd love to tell you more, but we can't, or, we can't tell you details quite yet, or things like that. That's not us just, whinging and whatever, trying to do marketing speak. It's that, to be honest, I think there's a legacy of some unfulfilled expectations, things that were talked about and then weren't followed through on. And so we want to make sure that anything that we tell you about, if we're going to say, hey, this feature is coming, that it's absolutely coming, that we know that it's coming. So we're only going to talk about things when we're 110% sure of the actual ability to deliver it, right? And look, it'd be so easy for me and Andre to just sit here and try to score brownie points with you guys and and give you honeyed words and tell you all the great things that we're going to do one day. But it's not. It would make us all feel really good. You guys would smile and nod. But we really want to make sure that when we tell you something, when we commit to something from now on, if we tell you it's coming. It's got time, it's got a patch number associated with it, we've seen it, and it's far enough in development that we can solidly and confidently tell you that it will land. So when you hear me kind of going, well, that's why, right? It's because we want to make sure that we live through and we follow through on our promises to you guys. And, so along those lines, right, we won't talk about things that we think are really great ideas. We'll certainly tell you about our thought process, but we won't just tell you, oh, we thought this would be great, we thought that would be great, for exactly that reason. We want to make sure whatever we're telling you, if it's specific and it's actionable, that it's committed and it'll happen. So that's it. That's sort of the rules of the road. Paul, you want to maybe start us off with some of the things we're going to talk about here?
Yeah, by the way, we've been in discussions for the last 2 days, for hours, arguing about how to answer these points, and I've been playing the point of the audience, and I had to hold my hand up when I was being the audience so I could ask mean-spirited questions. So, Supertest 9.16, it's out, it's available. A couple of things about Supertest. It's usually only Russians, a couple of Europeans. It's usually secret, and then it all leaks onto the internet, and everyone reads about it, apart from people who actually care about the game. And so, big changes on Supertest this time round. I was over in Minsk, I was invited over, and we've been given Supertest access, including Meathead. He's very happy about it. And this is a fundamental moment, because it means that North America is invited to come into Supertest at a dev level, look at the features, see what's going on, and give real big feedback about it. And Supertest itself is used for two things. It's used for testing features, or it's used for rolling out patches that are ultimately going to commons test. And one of the big changes the team wanted to do in Minsk was alter the way we communicate about Supertest. And so this time, I don't know whether you noticed, but we brought out a information article telling you what we were doing and explaining all the things that were in there. Now, just to be clear, Supertest at times, not everything that goes into Supertest makes it. In fact, in the time it took to write the article and record the video, 2 features disappeared. One of which I was very happy with. We shall never speak of it again. But it's which he's very happy. But he lost his temper and said it's stupid if we launch with that, and we're not. But it's got loads of really interesting things in it. It's got more improvements to the garaging. So we got garage sorting is going in. It's got the dual level carousel. It's actually got different versions of it. So most of the people in this room have a lot of tanks. Most of the people in this room are fed up scrolling. Most people in this room probably use the dual carousel mod, because otherwise you lose your mind. Or triple carousel mod. The one we've got in is really cool. It's got multiple features. It can do the dual carousel, but it can also do another one using little rectangles, like the ones you see in the tech tree, for like super condensed carouseling, which is kind of cool. And then we have a return crew button that's very obvious, so you don't have to hunt for it anymore, thank God. And then the one that you see there on the left is the what hit me detector. Yeah, and in first-person mode, that's amazing. It's like that mod that you thought was cheating. Apparently it's not. Who knew? I didn't, but damn, am I having it. And a bit like
well, Paul, it was cheating when only half the people had it. Now everybody has it. It's not cheating anymore.
You can still turn it off.
Well, and like most of the really cool stuff, it's not on by default. You have to dig for it. So it's like the times 25 zoom or the server reticle. It's like, no. So that's in there as well. So loads of really good stuff. The important bit is North America invited to Supertest. That's great. The next stage will be to try and get North American players into Supertest. We're not going to commit to anything that we can't commit to. But North America are in it, which is really, really important. And then getting the information out and telling you what's going on and why they're doing it and why it's getting put in, so you don't have to go and read it from other crazy websites. That would be my lead-in.
Yeah. So let me, real quick, just talk about what Supertest is for those who maybe don't know. And then Andre can talk about a lot of the features that we're actually building out inside of 9.16 and then Supertest itself. So the purpose behind Supertest is it's kind of a last check-in. It's really part of our QA process where we bring members of the public to help us test things out. It's not really so much for audience reaction and acceptance, although it's certainly sometimes we find out things based on that, right? Because it's the first time that people actually out in the public have been playing it. But the goal is really to help QA, to help test, to get scale, right? To find problems that only come out when you have enough people, right? Enough matches and all that. Because some bugs just don't present themselves until you get thousands and thousands of matches going at once and things like that. So that's the point around Supertest. It tends to come out a month to month and a half before the patch actually makes it live. And then from Supertest, we then move, if that works, we move to Common Test, which is really for the last couple weeks beforehand, and that's really just like it's like a beta program for the patch, right? Just a chance for everybody to come in, get familiar. It's the last chance for all the mod makers to make sure that all their mods work with the actual shipping version of the code and things like that. So given that Supertest is actually a test function and not a demo function, as it were, the Supertest server itself is actually based out in the Eastern Hemisphere. The ping to it for North Americans is really, really bad. And the times that we organize matches on Supertest, because again, it's a job, not a demo. The time that we organize matches is Minsk-focused time frame, which is 10 hours ahead of where we are here in Seattle. So the times that you'd be playing, even if you were invited to Supertest, would be basically in the middle of the night or really middle of the early morning. So we haven't generally done a lot of that, although for guys like Paul and Mita and Robin and some of the other guys in the North American office, we have no problem making them get up in the middle of the night and play. That's fine. That's their jobs and they love it, right?
We were given access, that's really fundamental. And then we were invited to the discussions, that's really fundamental. And then we were told that our stuff was being thought about, that was fundamental.
Yes.
And in some cases, the stuff we've done have been actioned on, that's fundamental. It's great, it's great, it's tremendous, it's unrecognizable from 6 months ago.
Yeah, and so the super test, so, again, you'll see a lot of features in there. It's a nice preface for where things are on the patch, for what you're going to see actually in 9.16 itself, and then with all the super tests going forward. And one of the things that we're going to change now is when we do the super test, instead of you guys hearing about what's in there through sort of, a blog here and a little bit there and something translated from Russian on some weird site that's actually hosted in Antarctica or whatever, we're just going to put things up. We're going to tell you about what's going on, tell you what's in there, and that'll be your first chance to be able to see and hear about a lot of the stuff that we're working on for the patch itself. Andre, you want to talk about some of the things that are in 9.16?
Well, what's sitting in between these two talkative guys is making me really, really hard to get any time to my own speech.
Thank you very much for that. I think we'll...
You're doing great. I just wanted to add a few points to what Thane just said. First off, once again, Supertest is about quality of execution. It's not about quality of design to some extent. So it's not a place where we do test ideas, and we will get to that place a little bit later today. Second, what's might be very interesting for you about this particular one, that you all know that we are getting rid of many maps recently, and what we are getting in right now is a map, and that map is making its return from a rampage mode. It's Paris map. You were able to see the screenshot for a second. So we really worked hard to adopt it to the random, because it was initially created for a different game mode. So it's reworked. Hopefully you guys will like it. And the second bit, we are starting slowly to introduce Swedish nation, and there will be a Swedish premium tank. And this is going to be the first premium with autoloader. So hopefully you will like it as well. And this is the mean for you to train your Swedish guys a little bit before the nation will come in. Thank you.
So we've also got in 9.16, as you're seeing from these shots and what Paul was saying, there's a lot of just cleanliness features and things with that taking kind of the best of mods, right? Things that have been out there in the community that frankly a lot of you guys are using anyway, and bringing those into the client. We've really been taking a different approach on mods. We want to make sure that first of all, we love mods. We think mods are great. We're happy to continue to support them.
He's got a quick question. Since you're on mods, can we just all get context? Like the garage filters, was that you guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's asking,
Yeah,
he's
so
asking
the
questions
garage,
about,
yeah.
with the mods that are turning up, were the mods actually generated by the Minsk team? Did they make the modifications to the engine to put the mods in? And the answer is...
Yeah, so with mods that are out there in the community, when we take our own version of it, we don't use the mod code, right? We take them and we actually do them to make sure that they don't, no memory leaks, and that they're optimized and they're efficient and they work with the code base and all that. So the things that we put out in the patches, those are actually officially developed features.
No, I know, but less that, but just so we all know, we've all been playing a long time, right? Everybody remembers over the target markers coming into the game, like what? 3-4 years ago, and then we had 3 years of just no features coming into the game, and then these guys arrive and we get the filters that we wanted for 3 years. So, come on, guys. That's the difference we're making already.
Well, that gets to the massive movement over the last year, which has been absolutely tremendous. And it's been fundamental, and it's been low level, and it's filtering now into what you're seeing at the end. And we've got damage counters, for God's sake, finally. You know, we have a button in the garage that takes you to the shop. It's 5 years in the making. So no,
Extremely complicated feature.
extremely complicated feature. And the thing to bear in mind is that, and just be clear, the people at Minsk, the team, they love the game. They love the game. It's not that they didn't know about these features. This was all to do with the prioritizing system. It was all to do with Thane coming in and saying, look, we need to make sure that we put things in the right order, and let's do the most good for the most people. So instead of, you know, more random, hard to get, tier 10, extremely grindy tanks that you have to unlock, why don't we put a garage filter in? And the people went, okay, that's a good idea, let's do that. So that's what you've been seeing over the last year.
So
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I just want to make sure that that was you, and I'm like, thank you, we're huge
Well-
fans already.
Well, thank you. But look, you know, I don't want to overstate it either. I think, you know, as Paul said, so just let me give you a little sort of an insight into where the team's been and their, you know, where their mental state has been, right? I mean, the game's been out for a long time. We all know that, right? It's a great game. There are tons and tons of things that have turned out really well, and then there's a whole lot of stuff that just, you know, little challenges, little issues along the way that are, you know, maybe not a big deal in and of themselves, but then you pile this one on top of that one, on top of that one, on top of that one, you end up in a place where things just started to get, you know, some stuff just got broken, right? Death by 1,000 cuts kind of stuff. So you've got a team that wants to change things, that realizes, you know, and realized before I ever got there, realized, oh man, you know, we need to make some updates, we need to fix some things, we need to do stuff. But in some ways, they're sort of penalized by their own success, right? There's so many players, there's so many people, and so we'd talk about, oh, we need to fix the game. Yeah, we absolutely need to make changes. Okay, well, let's make a change to this feature. Oh God, no. We can't touch that because we're going to piss somebody off if we make that change. Well, okay, what about this feature? No, you totally don't want to touch that. That's going to make somebody upset. Well, what if we update the garage and, you know, and make it cleaner and easier to use? Well, no, because these guys have been playing this thing and using this forever, and so they totally know where everything is. Yeah, but it's messy, right? And so the change hasn't been, you know, us coming in and saying, look, guys, you know, you need to get your act together and start thinking about and caring about the players. No, they thought about and cared about the players. They were just a little paralyzed from the fear that the changes they would make would actually go in reverse and would upset people. So for us, a lot of the oomph, a lot of the push has just been saying, hey, you know what? Like, you're right. We're probably going to piss somebody off when we make a change, but the only worse thing we can do than piss somebody off with making a change, as long as we're pissing off a few people and then making a whole lot of people happy, we're winning, right? That's a net positive. And look, the worst thing is just boring you guys to death, right? With not making changes, not making improvements, and doing things like that. And look, this stuff, like, we're going to screw some things up now and again. That's software development. It happens, right? We're not going to get everything perfect the first time. But that's okay. We're also a live game, and we'll continue to patch. So, you know, we'll put something out. It'll be 95% great, and the 5% that isn't great, then we'll work on it. We'll patch it out, you know, and we'll bring it along the way. I mean, physics is a perfect example of that. I thought it was a really good feature. It was really cool, and especially if you were in some lighter tanks, man, oh man, whoop, right? You flip over like a pancake, and then, you know, in the next patch, we did some tweaks and tunes and, you know, dialed that down, and so it's less likely, and so now, yeah, you can still flip over, but probably because you earned it.
The greatest moment for me, because I was a huge tanker before I got here, was going to Minsk with my secret file of why the hell don't you do this? Like, why the hell don't you do this? I'm going to go through it. I got 70 pages. To discover that not only did they have all the answers, they had better answers than me. And they had very warm, positive answers. And when I was there going, the garage, they went, oh yeah, let us tell you what we're going to do with the garage. And you just relax. You just go, oh God, yeah, of course, these guys and girls have been thinking about it for years. All they needed was the go order. Go do that. And it's amazing what that team can do. It's been absolutely great. So I've already just got back from the latest trip, and all the stuff that's coming down the pipe just makes me, as a player, go, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. And then as North America, it just makes me go, hooray! So, it's been very good. It's very exciting. Please do.
Yeah, should we? Pardon me, Jake. You want to? We can move forward.
I may have led the questioning. Sorry.
So the sandbox. As Andre said, the super test isn't the place where we're testing early ideas and testing for interest and things like that. Super test is really, it's the last step along the way on the birthing process, right? Like this is at the tail end when we're heading towards the birth of it into the patch, right? Actually out into the world. The sandbox is actually something that we've sprung up now as a way to test things at the conception phase, and to get interest and excitement and try kind of some crazy things sometimes, but at the beginning, so that we can figure stuff out and get you guys' opinion and input as well as player data and things like that early, really, really early, so that the ideas that are really harebrained and really crazy and don't actually end up moving the game forward and furthering them, we find that out early along the way and we scratch those, or we adapt and modify and things like that and move on before it ever gets to the point where it's live to you guys. That's kind of so that's the goal of the sandbox. It's really, people talk about it as a beta. The sandbox as it exists right now, the one where we're doing the rebalance work, is really more like an early alpha. And the goal has been to get players in and really push things along. Like I said, do some kind of crazy stuff. When you're doing your first test of something new, you overshoot the target. You intentionally take it real far, probably farther than you should, because that way you find out how much is farther than you should, rather than going, oh, is this, oh no, a little more, oh no, a little more, no. Well, you just go whole hog, right? And then you start dialing it back from there. The goal, we can talk about sort of the intent or the goal around the rebalance. Broadly speaking, there's a few key issues, and I think everybody in the room probably will agree with these, but if you don't, let me know.
Probably the next slide.
Yeah. Well, no, around just broadly around what we're trying to accomplish with the rebalance. And you guys have heard a lot of this, words about rebalance and all this. Things like, there's a lot of camping, pixel hunting in the game, right? You spend all your time sitting in the back. The first 7 minutes of a match, everybody kind of has to play like a TD, whether you're a TD or not, right? Because if you lean out and you start moving, if you're a heavy and you try to set the battle line and get moving forward, probably you're going to get nuked, right? The SPGs are going to take you out. Heavies and mediums and anything else lined up in a bush on the other side of the map are going to take you out. So we wanted to work on things to bring back the sense of differentiation in the tanks, allow heavies to be heavies, allow the mediums, the mobile flankery mediums to do mobile flankery medium things, have the value of scouting restored, have lights actually matter. Alongside the sort of the idea of heavies being heavies, we wanted to bring back the importance of armor, right? Make it matter again, because it kind of doesn't. And so create more intense, more close-up gameplay that frankly is more like what it was when things first shipped in a lot of ways. So that's the work that we're doing. A lot of the features that were built out along the way inside of the sandbox were built in order to do that. And then, of course, specifically SPGs, which we'll talk about in a minute in far greater detail, because that's one of the things that tends to get a lot of hate, and reasonably so. We'll talk about more SPGs more in a minute. But Andre, you want to talk about maybe the kind of how we went in?
Sort of a little bit. So there are basically like four big reasons why we started to do on a sandbox what we started to do. So Thane partially covered them already. The first one, the game never was intent to be a long-range sniper competition. So even an SPGs are there to kind of make you move. Originally, that was the idea. They make you move. They do not make you blob into a crowd. They are reducing the blob effectiveness. This is kind of why they're there. So what happened over the course of evolution of the game, when we were changing the dispersion, I cannot do that, like really. and chew that. When we were changing the dispersion mechanic, we kind of intentionally we wanted players to shoot more sharply, to kind of to hit the weak spots better. But what it led us to is that you can do pretty well shooting over 300 meters, and that's exactly what not we wanted to achieve. So when Thane says that we are going to bring it close quarters, it doesn't mean that we are going to promote head-to-head like kind of very, very, very close-up clash. We are saying that the fight should go under 300 meters for most machines that are not specifically designed to be snipers. So, and this is why we were changing the penetration fall-offs on SANDBOX, why we were changing dispersions, not to make you mess. It's to make you shoot when you kind of see the enemy, not see a bunch of red pixels like they're somewhere on the other side under the several obstacles. So practically to make you shoot when you see the target, not to make you shoot every time when someone on your team sees the target. And this brings us to the next kind of problem when I think for you guys here it's not a big deal. You do understand what different tanks are doing, and this mic is better for sure. Thank you very much. So, but for newcomers, for people with less than, wow, I can do stereo.
You've got like some sort of mic fear.
Yes, I do.
Like
We're here to
literally
help.
1 inch closer and we're good. Yeah, there you go.
You know what? I have a pretty long nose, and I'm all the time. I'm scared that I will start to breath right into the mic.
You can go here, touch it to your lip.
Okay,
That doesn't work too.
okay. Not a big experience speaking into the mic. Yeah, but for people with less than 16,000 battles, it sometimes could be pretty complicated to understand what specifically they are supposed to do on this or that machine in order to get successful. So that was the idea behind introducing the roles. It went kind of clumsy. Like we hard-coded that, like, tweaked things here and there. But the intent is to specify what is your behavior in order to make this machine do what designers back in 60s, 40s, 50s were intended to do. And so goes changes to a spotting range. So this is kind of to rebuild the role model, then to make armor play on a mid and long ranges much more. It's a penetration for all types of shells. And then it's to make you move, to not be afraid to get to start moving, because indeed, especially on some, because I'm a big Leopard 1 player, I kind of know what means to be afraid to start moving. So yeah.
So I can, and you know, we could spend hours and hours and hours on the SANDBOX stuff, but just to hit really quickly a couple of what have been key questions that we've heard on the SANDBOX. There's been a lot of, well, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You know, hey, you know, so the penetration fall off, I mean, you know, from what Andre was saying, you guys get what we're going for, right? You introduce penetration fall off so that a guy who's not a sniper, who's a heavy, who's camped out a mile away down the road, you know, is shooting at you and is plinking away at this tiny little itty bit over there. When there's penetration fall off happening earlier, then that shot is not likely to pen even if it manages to hit a critical spot. And then the other big change was the change in the dispersion circle of the relative accuracy inside of it, moving away from something where, what is it? I mean, it's the great majority, like 75-80% of the shots hitting like within a very small portion of the center of the circle, no matter how bloomed out it is, versus more even dispersion inside of that circle itself. Well, if you've got a guy who's shooting from 1 billion miles away with something where there's a lot of penetration fall off, they're probably unlikely to hit a really tiny little crit spot from that far unless they're a machine that's made to do that, right? And then even if they do, they're unlikely to be able to get a whole lot of pen because of the pen fall off. So that's, you know, it encourages them to not waste their shots far away. It encourages them to move forward. Now, we did see, though, and then, so this begs the next question that everybody brings up, which is, oh my God, I hated whatever in the SANDBOX. You guys aren't going to ship that crap, are you? So, and the answer is that as it's currently envisioned, right, as it's currently coded, no, we're not going to ship that because we're at the early part of the phase. But we feel good about what we saw in that, and we know that now we can take the things that we've done because it's hit the goals that we've set out. Now we can adjust, right, and be able to get to something that we can ship over time. Like, take the dispersion circle change. It's great. It had the effect we wanted at long range, but the problem is it also turns out that now at shorter range you're unable to hit with the level of sort of fidelity you want. When you are playing at the distance we intend you to play, it's harder for you to hit your shots, and so you feel like you're just, you're missing your crit spot, you're missing the thing that you're aiming for. So there's a ton of things we can do to tweak and change that stuff out, and that's the kind of thing you'll see us noodling with in future iterations of the sandbox. We're not going to ship what's in the sandbox until it's actually ready to go live. That's the whole point of the sandbox, is to be able to get all these issues out on the table now, get to something that we all feel really good about, you guys and us, that the play data is telling us it's good, that the comments on the forum is telling us that it's making you guys feel happy. That's when we're going to ship it, right? So
we have to get to this next slide.
Yep. Yes.
I'm right. We got to get there. Because it leads on.
Yeah. All right.
It's continuation of, to some extent, because the only thing I have missed, and it was intentionally, I have missed speaking about artillery and sandbox, because that's sort of a big change.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay, so as I said before, the key purpose. I'm getting it. Yeah, the key purpose of artillery and the game was to prevent very heavy armored machines from turtling. It's very easy for them. Get IS-7 hull down, and good game. The second bit is not to make a massive amount of machines concentrated in one direction way too effective. So practically what happened on the sandbox, what we did, we increased the splash damage range a lot, and we added what you hatefully call stun, let's call it shell shock, but generally a crowd control mass effect that will affect the people who are blobbing, who are too concentrated somewhere else. So these are two changes we are trying, and again I'm saying that it's not going to ship the way it was done. We were testing the data, looking what's going on, how will it change the behavior on a kind of mid-run.
Can you do the bit about DPM, DPH?
That's
pivotal.
Probably very important. So artillery do have very mediocre DPM, damage per minute, but extremely high DPH right now to compensate for that. And that leads to the situation when you get one shot. So, and this is not an intent. It kind of turned out evolutionary into that. When we changed the dispersion, we needed to start changing the artillery rate of fire to practically lowering its DPM, and it started to be very unsatisfactory to shoot it. So we started to bring up DPH, damage per hit, and now we are at the situation when that damage per hit is making everyone uncomfortable, especially if you're playing high tiers.
And so, as Andre said, right, the goal of Artie in the first place was to flush out. It's like grenades in a first-person shooter, right? It get you moving, right? Get the action going. And instead, because of all these other things that happened, it's ended up having the reverse effect, right? And it's the thing that is the most causing everybody to kind of play like we're in 300, right? And, get under, then we shall fight in the shade. So... it's a different setup. So the goal of moving it to being this sort of harassment, support, and as Andre calls it, the anti-blob class, right? That stops people from being, a horde of 15 sweeping across in close quarters. If you've got an Artie on the other side that's able to lob a shell in there and with a nice wide blast radius, it isn't nuking 15 machines, but it's taking this heavy blob, right? This sweeping heavy force that's all just rolling through and causing death and destruction around it. And it shell shocks them, right? And now the other tanks on your team can start blasting away and doing some damage to those. that'll kind of prevent the sort of the heavy like Friday the 13th rush that that is a fairly popular tactic. As Andre pointed out, the stun mechanic. I mean, the first one, I think we had it set for what it lasted about 2.6 years, and it stacked.
Yep.
So we won't have it last that long, right? We're going to tweak the timing and the effectiveness level and things like that to be able to make it easier for and not end up with the result where instead of being one-shotted by already death, you get stun locked and then relocked and locked and locked and locked, and you just die the same death but slow and agonizing, a little shot at a time, right? Which is what's been going on now, right? So that's the kind of stuff you'll see in future iterations of the sandbox we'll work on. So we'll get there. We understand, right? We know that as it's currently configured, it's not right. But again, that's because we were intentionally overshooting the target on the first test. Now we'll start dialing it back and getting it into the range of what we want it to be. So that's Artie.
Well, one more point. It could look very easy solution, just nerf the damage of a shot from artillery. The problem is, as we were describing it, and it is like that. It's a big ecosystem. So when you pull one lever somewhere in that ecosystem, something else will pop up. So if we will just nerf Artie, the only positive thing that it is still doing right now is fighting turtling heavies, or turtling tank destroyers. So tank destroyers with quite high alpha, with quite high precision, will be the next big thing the community will yell to nerf. So if we will nerf Artie, it's kind of round-robin process. We will start nerfing something else, specifically in this case tank destroyers. After the tank destroyers, we will nerf heavies, and it's pretty obvious path, and we don't want to go there.
Let's have that one. Thanks, yeah, cheers.
So it turns out there's problems with the matchmaker.
Surprisingly.
So look, I'll say to start, right? There are several things that we think. I mean, we all see, right, challenges with the matchmaker. Some of these are real issues. Some of them are exaggerated or exacerbated by some third-party mods. I mean, when you're looking at your win rate and you see, oh, it's a 25% win rate, and first of all, those win rates aren't necessarily very accurate. We actually have a whole lot of research around this. They don't necessarily tell you what the actual chances are because they're evaluating some things that aren't necessarily the most important things to winning. They're really important to your rating, but not necessarily actually important to whether you're going to win or lose the match. So so some of this is there's a perception thing where it looks worse than it is, and then of course when certain people, and I'm sure nobody in the room does this, but when certain people look and they go, 27% chance to win, matchmaker's broken, and then they throw themselves off a cliff. 22% chance to win. There's a certain, self-fulfilling prophecy piece to this. So some of it's working with that and being able to give better data for people to understand what's going on. But there are other things certainly that are going on in the matchmaker. And so we can talk about kind of looking forward, what are the things we want to do. We want to make it a little bit easier and more predictable, more reliable for which set of the tiers you're going to be in, whether you're in sort of high or medium or low inside of a match. We want to give a little bit more constraint around where the number of things like, how many Artie can you have in a match or things like that. That's a lot of stuff we're working on. We want to be able, it's random battles, so they are random, and so weird things happen sometimes. But, if you've been getting your head caved in for a long time, over a long stretch of things, it'd kind of be nice if we gave you a little break, every now and again, let you get back, kind of recover. So, building in some things that are sort of anti-low, weird probability, bad beat streaks is another one of the things that we want to do. Andre, you want to talk about more of some of the depth on matchmaker?
You basically covered everything in broad strokes already. But what the principal thing that we would like to achieve with a new matchmaker is equalize the chance for a player to be on the same vehicle, to be on top of the list, in the middle, and at the bottom. So make it more or less fair, like normal distribution thing. So this is one of the tools we would like to apply to fix those issues just that Thane just mentioned. So other than that, like really thinking of, and I'm kind of tying in back to random is random, thinking of about skill-based matchmaking. There's a few, I bet there are many people here who would like to have it, and I bet there are many people not here, like outside, who would not. So this is kind of thing that that is wished by those who want to play competitively. So are we looking into this subject? Yes, we are. Are we going to apply that kind of matchmaking to random battles? No, we will not. So this is what makes them random. If we will do that, they will stop being random battles in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. That, you know, we hear it a lot, right? Oh, you should add skill, right? It should be a skill-based matchmaker. There's a time and a place for that hardcore best of the best. I want to put my medal up against the other guy and show off that I'm the best player out there, right? There's a world where that should happen. That shouldn't be in random battles, right? Because, you know, over time, then that just leads to we've all got 50% win rates, and we're all playing basically the same match every time over and over again. It lacks variety, right? What you want to have is a place and a time where you can get super duper competitive. And we've got some of that already with things like clans, right? Where you're organizing, you're bringing your buddies, and you're going for it against other people who are super skilled, right? And being able to show who's the best out there. But in randoms, as Andre said, random is random, and we want to keep it that way. So we're not going to end up introducing skill-based matchmaking into random battles. We are looking into ways to give you guys that opportunity to do the thing that you want to do that skill-based would give you, which is go get them and chase for sort of alpha dog status out there, right? So, you know, we're looking into ways to do that. Anything else on matchmaker we want to cover?
Yeah, and Thane touched clans. So what we definitely do not want to do is to make you play on schedule. So that's what clans are right now about. And actually in any MMO game, like think about World of Warcraft, if you're hardcore raiding guy, you have a schedule how you do raid. So you have to be on time is a second job. So the solution we are looking for, despite I kind of urge to tell, but those guys will kill me afterwards. It's not about being on schedule. That's the very, very principal thing. It will allow, or we want it to unlock to you the competition to fight for a alpha dog position in this crowd, but not on schedule. So
yeah. Well, certainly not that it's a second and third job, right? Which is kind of currently the way that things are. So we're, you know, there's a bunch of stuff we're working on to make that less brutal in terms of the time commitment.
To be fair to both of you, there is some stuff about matchmaker. They're just not going to tell you about it, which is fair because they're checking it out. The stuff I've seen, I've been very happy with because it's been common sense checking. And it's stuff where I go, oh, thank God, you're at least going to do that, and you're at least going to do that, and you're at least going to do that. It's sort of like the mods. So it is coming, and it will make you feel better. That's probably the strongest answer they can give using the rules Thane has laid down.
I can give just one last thing on the matchmaker, that this isn't, we're not in pure conceptual stage on the changes we want to make to matchmaker. We're actually at the point where we're going to be starting to test some of these things. We've got a few different ways that we're testing them. We've talked about how we want to do it, whether we just sort of put it onto one cluster in one region somewhere and kind of see how that goes, or do we do SANDBOX? Do we do, you know, there's a bunch of different ways that we could test this stuff out. But it is actually, like, the things that we're telling you now aren't, hey, we've recognized there's a problem and sometime in like 2019 we'll get around to it. No, these are actually things we're going to be adjusting and testing over the course of the next few months. So you'll see changes coming soon. I don't have a time yet, and then, like you said, to my own rules, I'm not going to promise stuff that I can't follow through on. So we'll just have to go with soon right now, but it is actually in the testing phase. That's the important part.
And you did commit to, look, you're not going to get skill-based matchmaking in randoms. It's not going to have bang. So
yes.
Done. We might put it in something else. We're definitely not doing it in randoms. Bang.
Yes.
±1, ±2. Yeah.
Yeah, we can get that.
There is one more requirement. Let's say many people are asking why we or will it be still ±2 tiers, or will it be ±1? So there is one point I kind of like you to think about. Being 2 tiers above everyone else in the match, or majority of people in the match, is the moment when you feel yourself very empowered. But this moment has a backside of sort. Sometimes you are 2 tiers below everyone else in the match. So this is it's an emotional trade-off, and we think we want to keep it. Again, for random battles, we think we want to keep it, exactly because there are moments when you are the hero of the battle, and there are moments when you are the underdog, but still you can crawl up to be the hero. And being a hero while you are 2 tiers lower is much more satisfactory, I think, than when you are the top guy on the block.
Yeah. No, and
Sorry about that.
Whoa, they're all big questions, one after the other. Artillery, matchmaker. What about our maps?
So
what about our maps?
So I think the nice thing is I'd say, you know, Paul, generally speaking, you know, when we have conversation with players, the biggest set of complaints tend to fall into one of 3 buckets. First, it's Artie. God, Artie, I hate you. Why, Artie? You know, you're right. Yeah. So and it's good, you know, it's not universal, but a lot of people, Artie, and then when they get done with Artie, then we move to matchmaker. And then when we get done with matchmaker, then we tend to, you know, the third thing we tend to hear is maps. So we figured, you know, we'd just hit them. You know, there's no, you guys are going to, whether we do it up here now or right after, we're going to hear the questions, so we may as well just get these now. So on maps, I'd say, just to start with, there's a lot of things that we've learned about map making over the last year plus. And when I first got into the team, I sat down with the level design guys, because I had the same, you know, maps kind of conversation, right? And so Evgeny, actually, who you saw in the video, sat down and we walked through a whole long list of things about what do we know about our maps, what's been working, what's been not working. And there's been a ton of research that the guys have done over the last several months to understand where things are working and not. Some of this is in player surveys. You guys may remember answering some surveys earlier in the year about, you know, what are your favorite maps, what aren't your favorite maps? And then you saw some actions that were taken, like the disappearance of certain maps that it turns out everybody hated. Something that was kind of interesting, we did each of these surveys inside each of the different sort of major regions, right? So North America, Europe, CIS, Asia. And generally speaking, the bottom 3 maps were actually consistent worldwide. Like this isn't one of those weird regional, you know, play pattern things. Like, no, Stalingrad actually just was not good. There's some reasons
Even
around
in
that.
Russia.
Yeah, even in Russia, right? So there are reasons around that. Some of the things we've learned, number one, it turns out that generally speaking, and some of this will sound like common sense, but you actually have to test it, right, to get there. Set battle lines, being able to have some relative level of predictability around where the fight's going to happen is important. Running around and being afraid of just being kind of shot in the ass everywhere at any moment, at any given time, isn't actually all that fun, and Stalingrad is kind of really good for that particular experience, if that's what you're into. So, you know, we've pulled that off. I think the other thing that we've come to see, you know, we kind of embarked on this grand experiment, right? Let's do some real maps, real world, you know, we're about World War II, we're about authenticity, we're about the real thing. You know, let's build some real maps and real locations into the game. Sounds like a great idea. Turns out, this is strange, we've found this out through doing this. It turns out that most city builders, they don't have fair and balanced gameplay in mind as one of their chief considerations. So, you know, learning experiences, we've chalked it up, right, and we're moving on from that. Things like that, things like having more width, right? So you don't have so many corridors and really tight things, because that really plays towards one particular class and not towards a lot of the other ones, right? So widening out the streets. If you looked at the Paris map, and then when you guys play it, you'll see we've really widened out, so that allows a much broader variety of gameplay types and classes and roles to be able to do fun things. And then adding in things like vertical elements and the bridges and things like that, so you can do some fun stuff with ambushes, hide from arty, things like that. So we're really working on. We've learned a lot. Geez, that lighting, clarity, being able to understand what's going on around the environment. There's a ton of things that we've learned. Now what that leads to, then, we do get every so often, Paul once in a while, very rarely, but once in a great while, says to me, hey, why don't you bring back map blah, whatever
Port.
that is.
Why don't you bring back port?
Sure. For example. So, and what we've realized, and I know this isn't the answer everybody wants to hear, but I'm being honest.
They do want to hear it because it's the answer.
Yeah, what we've seen, so a lot, when we've pulled out maps in the past, and maybe we've held ourselves to a really high standard, maybe too high of a standard with it, but in terms of balance, but the maps that have been pulled out because they're actually unbalanced, because one side has a much stronger win rate than the other side. That's the reason. We didn't, in fact, do player surveys and say, what are the most satisfying maps? Okay, good. Let's kill them. That wasn't actually the approach, even though it can feel that way sometimes. It was a balancing issue, right? We said, okay, the win rate is too far off. One side favor the other. Let's pull it out. And the intent originally was, hey, let's take them out and let's work on them, right? Let's balance them out, rebalance them, and then we'll throw them back in. The problem is, generally speaking, it turns out when you've got a map that's got kind of that is fun but has a fatal flaw to it that way, bringing that balance in and making that change without destroying the fundamental character of the map turns out to be harder a lot of times than actually just building a new one. So what we're doing, right, the way that we started working was, you know what, we're going to pull out old ones that are unbalanced. We're going to bring in new ones that people will really love and really enjoy. And where we've fallen down, to be really honest, is over the last few, as you saw things like Stalingrad especially, we didn't live up to the second part of that. We did the first part real well, right, just not so good on the second part. So going forward, the intent isn't for us to spend tons and tons of time trying to bring back a lot of old maps so much as it is to bring you guys new maps that you love and enjoy and feel good about, so that you don't spend all your time pining for the days of old, right? That's the goal.
Well, yeah, few more things about bringing up old stuff. New physics, it's called. Not every time it is possible without rebuilding the whole thing from the scratch to account in everything that will happen with the new physics. Some of those maps were built like pre-physics even. So as Sane said, it's about 1/2 maps that we pulled away are irreparable, let's say. So for us, it's better to build something else. Let's say maybe keeping up the same theme just for nostalgia. But generally speaking, it's much more comfortable for us, and hopefully for you as well, is to build entirely new maps, thinking of all the new features that are in the game right now, especially physics, because this is a navigation part of the gameplay. A comfort of getting from A to B, and this is crucial for making a map playing experience good. And one more thing I'd like to add to what Thane said already, that providing maps without that chaotical experience and all the time expectance of being shot from some weird direction is working towards safety to some extent. So what we believe strongly is that players should understand pretty well most of the time, is he safe right now or he is not. So all our really good maps provide you with that pretty well. That's what we want to bring in back.
So Paris is first steps forward. We've got some other maps that are in the hopper that you'll be able to see before too long. Again, Paris was kind of the 70% in the new learning in terms of what we've built out, and then some of the other ones are really where we've got the full sort of application of knowledge along the way. So if you see those new maps come out and you'll like them, great. That's good, and we'll look forward to hearing that from you. If you hate them, let us know really early, because then we can tweak and adjust where we're going as well. So that's maps. We should probably move on to the next topic. Tank trees. Andre, you want to hit this one?
Yeah,
your baby.
probably. So a few things that are important kind of to know about what we are thinking right now. The thing number one, yes, we want to enhance the offering of premium machines. So there is a request for crew trainers. So like philosophically, we want to review how we do design premium tanks and kind of build up onboarding tanks for people who are starting or people who are starting into a nation, then build a crew trainers, like specifically, and then to build the tanks that you are using to grind. So these are three kind of philosophical logical groups, and along this direction we start to move on. Second bit about premiums is a Scorpion. I don't know how many of you tried that one already. A Scorpion is sort of a new direction on how premiums are supposed to be built. So this is a machine that is very comfortable in hands of a person who do understand what he is doing, like really well. And at the same time, it doesn't make it imbalanced, because it's very easy to create a like kind of impenetrable one-shot kill everything, shoot 25 times a minute. It's a dream. I think German Teutonic dream, like from 1944. But we are not going there. So we want to build machines with a specific kind of learning curve that are not uncomfortable while you are new at them, but could become very comfortable later on. So this is speaking about premiums. About tank trees, so yes, we're going to revise all the tank trees over time. So again, no specific dates, no specific order, but the intent here is there are plenty of bottlenecks there. There are many machines that cause huge discomfort, and despite some good things that we're using those horrible torture devices in order to make you to transfer for free experience, this is not the case. These are torture devices, so we will look into that. It will mean that we will either rearrange some trees or change the machines. It's what we plan to do over the next whatever dozen or so months.
I think we can talk about early intent versus sort of where we've gotten to, right? I mean, early on, if you look at the genesis of the game, the goal was really to try to very clearly, very closely mirror historical accuracy. So it was almost a sort of a joke phrase like, "Hey, that tank is really crappy." Well, yeah, you're right. You should talk to the German tank manufacturing. Like they're the ones that screwed it up. And early on, that made sense, right? And there was a certain amount, especially when you consider the amount of incredible sort of World War II historical knowledge that there is inside of what is the game's home turf, right? Inside of the CIS territories. There's the amount of knowledge and understanding about these machines is really, really high. And so, there's a certain level of like, oh yeah, you're gonna try that one, huh? Okay, good for you, Sparky. Like, good luck. Because it's not as good of a vehicle. As we've tried to look at this over time and really try to balance for gameplay, that's where we're going to figure out how to make some tweaks so that, to Andre's point, the tanks that are really the biggest, sticking points, the ones that people really don't like, we figure out ways to work on that. We're not going to go crazy. We're never going to get to the point where we're just, abandoning historical accuracy completely because it's important, but we want to make sure that there's a certain level of fair and balance, and that you don't get to a point where you start playing something and just go, oh my God, this is a total pile. I'm out. Right, so we're going to move away from those. The other thing you'll see is that as we introduce new lines, the goal here really is to get away from, hey, there's a couple of really cool tanks in this new nation, and then we have some spaces we have to fill. All right, let's clone a few out. Right, let's throw some things in so we can get, a 10-tier line out. The goal now, there's 400 plus tanks in the game, so the goal is to really move forward with something where the new tanks fill some kind of a void, right? They add something to your arsenal that you don't already have. And to be clear, I'm not talking power creep. I'm expressly not talking power creep. We don't want it to be, oh, you want a new line because it's more powerful than the old ones. That's no good. But you want it to be, hey, there's a reason to choose this tool instead of another one because you want a slightly different experience or a different feel, right? Something that's a little more tailored to a play style. So you'll see that. You'll see new mechanics and things like that that will come in some lines. The Swedish Nation, there's a suspension system firing mechanic that we're working on right now that, again, back to the rules, I can't give you a whole lot more detail about yet because we're still working on it. But that's an example of where you'll see some different features and new things and things that could be cool and interesting for you to play. But we really are, intentionally, we want to move away from the sort of, all right, let's get a few out and let's clone out the ones that we need to fill out the line. Because I know that that's something that you guys don't like, and it hasn't made us feel any better either.
Add a little bit to that. Yesterday on the booth, me and Thane, we were talking with a few of the players, and one of them was a huge fan of Polish army. I think he's from, or his family is from there.
Yeah, family fought with him.
Yeah, and his grandfather was fighting in Polish army Krajowa, and he's like, oh my god, there are a few so cool tanks at the beginning. What do you think about the mid tiers and like top tiers? Oh, you can put British tanks inside and then Soviet tanks on top. Well, do you really think that you will enjoy playing that line at the end? So you already do have Brits, do you? Yep, I do. You have Soviets, right? Yep, I do. So what's up for you in playing that?
What do you get that you don't already have?
It's kind of the question of why, or when you will stop cloning T-54s. So that's a sort of an answer. So yes, kind of now.
Yeah, but two things like the Polish line and other things. I know one of the things that Slava's been thinking about a lot actually is how to get, for things like this, where you've got nations that aren't represented yet that have a few really amazing vehicles, really cool stuff that we want you guys to be able to play, but that we can't kind of fill out a line for easily. He's got a lot of different ideas he's been kicking around about how to be able to get those in. Without having to kind of, fill it up with paper. So, again, when we're closer, when we've got things to tell you guys more specifically, we'll do that. But I wanted to let you know we are actually thinking about these things, and one of our best and brightest. I mean, Slava is one of the OGs of tanks, right? One of the founders and creators, and he's back again in a role as a creative director, which is really exciting and a really good thing for the project. This is one of the things that he's thinking about a lot. So, hopefully we'll have some good stuff for you guys down the line to be able to talk about on that. Other stuff. I think, so maybe, we talked about mods a little bit. I'll segue. I'll talk about mods and also cheats because there's kind of the, two sides of the coin issue. We've thought a lot about mods. And again, like I said, we really, at our core, we love our mod community. We love mods. We think they're great. We think they add a lot of great things to the game. And we have kind of a strategy of what we're going to do with them over time. So, mods basically fall into kind of three categories. Mods that are really customization, that just allow you to process the information in the game in a different way, that is more amenable to your brain. Those are just straight out mods. We love those. We're going to support those, right? Over the long term, we're going to support those forever. Mods that create a gameplay benefit, some kind of significant advantage for you over people who don't have them. Those we're going to look at in one of two ways. If those are a gameplay benefit that we think is good, that we actually like, over the short term, we're going to support those. And over the long term, we're going to build those into the client so that everybody has them, right? So it's fair and balanced, right? That's what we're going for. And things like you saw in 916, the sort of the hit indicator is a good example of that. We thought it was cool. We like it. We like the functionality it brings. And so we're going to do our version of that. There are other mods that that give a gameplay benefit that we think are bad. We don't like that. And those things we're going to call cheats. We're going to be very clear with the community. I know that hasn't been something we've done. We're going to be very clear with the community about these are good, these are okay, these are cheats, these are not okay. And we're going to treat them as cheats. We're going to work to, from a technical standpoint, to make them inoperable with the game, as well as to sort of have a clear vision statement for you guys of, these things that do this we don't like, and so you don't use them. So that and you don't get frustrated by somebody randomly saying, sending you a nasty gram from customer support or whatever, saying, hey, we found you're using this mod and you need to stop or else bad things will happen. So that's kind of the goal. We have actively now an anti-cheat team, a cross-functional anti-cheat team in the development team that's been working on a bunch of stuff. We've killed off a few cheats already. We've got a number of other ones in their sites. We don't want to talk about which ones because, frankly, we don't want to warn them. And, because then they'll put up their shields, right, and start defending. But this isn't something that you've seen the kind of heat and focus around, I think, in the past. And I want you guys to understand that this is actually a really big, important topic for us. We want you to feel like you can come into a clean, safe environment where you can have a good, fair match and feel really good about it, right? We're never going to 100% stop cheating. It's like trying to 100% stop hacking. You just sort of have to keep on a daily basis going after it, right? Coming and getting it. But as we find new cheats, we'll go after them and we'll try to kill them. And we'll be clear with you guys about what we think is a cheat and what isn't.
Yeah, I mean, the rule that we laid down in North America, when we were talking to Thane and the team about it, is we said, here are the following sets of mods that we think people generally are using just to make the game good. Could you please just put them in the game? That way I don't have to go somewhere and grab them and put them in. Can we put them in vanilla? And we just did we did a straw test of what everyone in the office was using. And then we just paid attention to what people were posting on forums. And it was amazing how most players who were clean players, they're just getting mods usually just for utility to make the game easier for them to understand and play and work out. And I've been very happy with like the map mods that we put in, like the view distance markers and things like that. Just good health care. And now we've got the double carousel for the people like me who are, collector maniacs. Can actually, get rid of RSI when there's filters, returning crew, stuff like that. So I've been really, really pleased with them. I'm really pleased now I got the damage counter in, so I can finally figure out how to do those personal missions. So, stuff like that. So that stuff I think is really, really good. The cheaty stuff, I'm really sad we couldn't talk about it because we talked about it and we banned it. There's some amazing work going on, and it's really good work because what they're doing is they're going after people who are leeching off our players and actually are doing stuff that no one really would approve of when you look into it. They're scalping credit cards, all sorts of crazy stuff going on. So that being closed down is really, really important. And then the ones where we're going, it's just customization, we're leaving alone. I think that's really important. Some people just want crazy garages, so we should just let them have their crazy garages. So over in North America in particular, I know Meathead's really happy about it. I've been really, really happy with all the mod incorporation we have. It I can now just play vanilla for the first time and go, right, I'll just have that, which is all I ever wanted. So it was a good thing. So well done.
Thank you.
I think we're going to open it up to questions. Is that what we're going to do next?
Yeah, I think so. We can do that. I think the one last thing I wanted to talk about. It's fine. Go ahead.
And you'll be able to talk to them after here when we go back up to the area, so you can pin them down and talk about them all day. But who's got the microphone?
Oh,
Me has got the microphone.
hit it up.
And then you got the microphone?
Is this working? Excellent.
There we go. So if you got a question, raise a hand.
Hello,
He'll get round
sir.
to you. We'll figure
We
it
haven't
out.
heard-
Also, think
Who
of
are
your favorite one question because I'm sure you have plenty of them. But just the number one.
His hand was up really fast.
Okay, I'm coming. I'm going over. Let's see. How are we gonna do this?
20 minutes. All right, we have 20 minutes. We'll try to talk fast.
I'm gonna hold it. You can stand it. I'm gonna hold this. I don't want to give you the power.
So with the server selection, when you go into the game by default, it's on automatic. Maybe we're affected more because we're on the West Coast. My ping to West is about 25 to 30. My ping to East is 80 to 100. More often than not, myself and clanmates get shoved on the East server. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I honestly trying to create good matches. The more players you have. This, by the way, this kind of goes back to the matchmaker thing. The more players you have, and the more variety you can do, the more strict you can be with matchmaking rules, right? Because the worst thing we can possibly do to you, actually, even worse than having sort of bad matchmaker, is have one that's way too strict and too precise, and you have to wait for 3 minutes to get into a game, right? So the goal behind pushing you around from one thing to another is actually to be able to get you into quality matches faster and make you be able to play the game more frequently and hopefully then enjoy the night better. We're also 80 is actually still a pretty good set. We're a pretty lag tolerant game. I'll tell you my own personal experience. I've been playing on the North American server. I end up going to NA East while I'm sitting in my room in Minsk with about a 200 ping. It's totally playable. I wouldn't do esports with it, but it's actually playable even at that kind of ping. So the kind of, sub 100 is still, you're really not likely to get a whole lot of difference in quality of play.
But also for North America, there is an initiative on right now, which we're still working on, of where should our servers be? How can we give the most people the best ping possible? Like, where should they be located? What trunk should they be on? How should it work? Where should we put them there?
Well, and to be clear, it's not really, like having done this with some other stuff, it's not actually about which city you put it in, it's about the quality of the colo, right? How high quality is it? How many jumps does it have to the backbone? All that kind of stuff. There's a bunch,
So
stuff
there's
that
a whole
Max
project,
actually...
a project at work fixing all that to figure that out. Because we also have a lot of people who play from Australia on the American servers, and some people play from Japan as well, which is kind of crazy. So figuring out how to get the best possible ping with the maximum amount of players is at the forefront of the server guys right now for North America.
Yeah.
It wasn't a ping complaint. I was just curious about the server numbers. Sometimes that spools up the queue on the west drastically when there's three on the west and 10 on the east, and it's still defaulting us.
Right.
Why are the numbers so much bigger on the east server? Why do we have so many east servers than west servers?
Right, and that just goes to population. Like, look at a map of the U.S. and where people live, and that's actually the answer.
And I only ever play on the east server. I never play on the west server.
Over here, sir.
I pick it. I go east. The idea of combining it all, that's what the server group is actually working on. That's their plan. How do we put it all together in one cluster with the best possible ping? That's what we're trying to do. Shh.
Not just for North America, but for the world.
No.
I have no control over the world.
Yeah.
There's a question back here.
Please.
Okay, so
Mr. Head.
The more I've been noticing, the more I play, the more I've been noticing a lot of people just running to the front to die. Just literally going out there to throw away their tank and just die, and that's their one goal, and they're like, yeah, I accomplished this. So I think they've been saying, it's like, oh, well, what should I be doing differently? So I'm having to actually teach them how to be patient and wait to, or basically, at Tier 1, they were telling me, there's no maps that they can work with that teach them how to do this.
So I'll give you a really quick intro for Andre. One of the things that Andre's actually been working on is our new player experience to try to make it much easier and more understandable. Like, look, the game, I think it's an awesome, it's great marriage material, but it's not necessarily a real good first date, right? And Andre's actually been working on its initial presentation so that people learn better and can understand. You want to talk about that?
Well, a little bit. Again, you hijacked me on that. So, first off, there are kind of two bits in this question. The bit number one is, do people really understand what they are doing on a mechanical level? So, I mean, do they understand how to drive, how to shoot, why they're shooting this particular way or not? So this is one bit. And another bit is, how do they understand the game on a tactical level? So what they are supposed to do, and it's what we were talking a little bit briefly when describing SANDBOX bits. So there are two elements, and we are going to address both. First off is onboarding, a new player experience, initial player experience. There are multiple terms for that. And another one is to convey through the game UI, through the way we present machines, how specifically you are supposed to act on that machine to do right things. So. And we are going to address both on visible perspective, not like in light years from here.
Yeah, so hopefully the end result is you don't have to be the only person who's teaching new players. And by the way, thank you for doing that, because that's actually, I think one of the great things about the community is we have actually a number of people who really do take it on themselves to try to make it easier and more understandable for players. And that is a great thing, but we're going to try to make your job easier on that.
And one more bit. There is a guy in CIS space, codename Spishka, nickname Spishka, like
James Bond, codename.
Yeah, James Bond, codename, whatever. So I cannot really like immediately translate it into English. So he is the guy who is taking care of this kind of educational shows on YouTube for Russian-speaking audience, and me specifically and the team that is taking care of new user experience is working with that guy right now, like talking it for now, and then we probably are going to invite him to test our stuff before it will be available to public. So he has over 1 million subscribers right now, so it's a pretty solid figure in CIS cluster space.
Sir.
Excellent.
Okay. Okay. So speaking of training people, tank companies, I know you took them away, but a lot of clans use them as their training for all these new people that came in. Strongholds are a good option for clans, but it doesn't allow the ability to bring in these lower tier tanks as much to train these people that you want to possibly bring into your clan. Is there any possibility of changing the way strongholds work to be able to bring in these lower tier tanks, like for example, 2 tier 3s as opposed to a tier 6? Right now you're penalizing us if we bring in smaller tanks.
So I wouldn't reveal point number 3 of the road of the rules of the road. I wouldn't reveal much about that, but yes, strongholds are being reworked.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and to your point, like the concern that you've raised is one that we've heard from a lot of people, so it is something we're actively working on now. It's just, like Andre said, when we actually have something to share, we'll tell you more. But yes, heard and understood.
All the way back here.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm a streamer, and something I get asked a lot is, why don't you play low-tier tanks? And I think low-tier tanks is one of the biggest problems with this game. They are awful. There's a lot of people I know personally, there's probably a lot of people that everyone in this room knows that has started this game and then quit because tier 3 and tier 4 are just ridiculously bad. So are you guys looking at those tiers particularly and for any sort of changes to help people stick around? Because I'm pretty sure if I said AMX 40, everyone in here who's played that goes, oh, Lord almighty. So are you guys doing anything to help the tier 3, tier 4 especially grind?
So again, it's my turn to answer. So yes, in that new player experience thingy, we are going to take care about the players in around those ranges. So again, I will not speak specific things, but yes, we know this is a big issue, and yes, we're looking into it.
Just to be fair, I'll take my Cruiser 4 with a Bofors gun. I'll take that out against anyone else. I don't care who you are. That's a hell of a tank. And just to be fair for that, and the Matilda's pretty solid as well. Let's diss that. Oh, they're both British as well. Curious. Any more questions? Now you
I got one back here.
Oh, okay, we're over there.
So is it my understanding with Matchmaker that you plan on keeping the randomness where one team is going to have an example of 8 heavy tanks?
That's under the common sense
and the other
thinking.
team is going to have 1 or 2?
Common sense thinking that we can't come from. There's a lot of common sense thinking that you will all not agreeable about and go, that's very sensible, very common sense. They just don't want to talk about it. But I was over there in Minsk, I looked at it and I went, I approve of that, I approve of that, I approve of that. They just don't want to talk about it because of the rules.
Yeah, no, the goal, yes. When we say random is random, what we're referring to is the skill-based element. We don't want skill-based, right? We reject that as a randomness thing. But we don't want, hey, look, there's 14 artillery on one side and it's against a whole series of light tanks. That version of random is not actually desirable. So we're going for random, but not crazy. That's kind of
over there.
All right, we got one back here. All the way in the back.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for making me have to go through all those tables, by the way.
No problem. So you keep mentioning that you want to keep random skill-based matchmaking for player skills, but what I find it's very polarizing. You either lose in 3 minutes or you win in 3 minutes, and it's by a landslide. That's not fun, even when I'm on the winning side. How are you going to fix that if you're not considering skill?
So the issue with that is actually less about the player's skill and more about kind of the rules inside the matchmaker of what it's actually allowing to match. Again, you know, the thing that we're wanting to make sure stays random is who's sitting inside of what particular tank. The thing that we don't want to make totally random is which tanks are actually facing off against each other. Sorry?
You can have good people in bad tanks winning the match. That happens.
Yeah, no, you're right. So his point is that, you know, you can have good people in bad tanks.
Which end up badly because of the skill.
Yeah.
Effectively, what I was referring to early on, we want to find a different solution for those people for whom this particular bit matters a lot. And normally these are experienced players, because sometimes inexperienced players, or mostly inexperienced players, will be happy winning shortly in a short order. So there is, even with a skill-based thing, there is no way to guarantee a long-lasting battle. I mean,
that's not what I'm after. I'm after more variety. Right now, it's very strongly polarized.
Yeah, and so the point is making is you know, looking for more variety, and certainly the goal behind random actually is to have that variety. We actually, and the reason we're not building skill based into matchmaking is because it would actually reduce variety over time. The other issues, a lot of the you know, as Paul's pointed out, a lot of the sort of edge case weird stuff, the things that you see, they're like, wait, why is it doing that? Those kind of things we want to work on, right? So getting weird looking matches are things that we want to deal with. But you know, the solution, skill based is not actually the thing that leads to something that's better over time. We think it's actually a good goal. We want for players who are really good, who are better players, to be able to have a higher win rate over time than others. We want them to win more matches because they're better players. We don't want to artificially hobble them by putting them always up against the best of the best. And we want to allow the variety. And you know, sometimes you are going to see the bad beats. You know, that's not actually a sign of bad matchmaking. If there's a landslide victory once in a while, that's not actually a sign of bad matchmaking. If it happens time and time again, yeah, that's a sign of a problem. But again, that's more about some of the other things we're dealing with rather than skill.
The people I was talking to who are putting the matchmaker together would completely agree with you. They go 15-3 matches, 15-1 matches are terrible, and we shouldn't have them, and they're awful, and that's not the basis. Every now and then you have one, and it makes total sense. You played your ass off, and it was great. And sometimes you just get outplayed, and it does go that. But they shouldn't be commonplace, and they shouldn't be the goal of matchmaker. And there isn't anyone at Minsk who would say, oh yeah, that's what we're trying to do. They are trying to fix that, and they've recognized that it's unfulfilling for people to log in, and if you've got, I don't know, AT7, and by the time you've moved half a mile, it's all over. You know, it's kind of depressing. That was my ×5. That was horrible. So there's a lot of love for the point you're making.
And just to add a little bit, there is a special term we do have. It's in Russian. It's turbo sleeve. It's turbo loose. So yes, it's turbo loose, and we are well aware that this is an issue, but. We have a specific word for that, so trust me, we are thinking about it.
Okay.
Over here.
Yes.
Well, my voice carries pretty well without using a mic. But first off, I want to say thank you. This has been great. But second, I have a question on something that I haven't heard you guys discuss, and that is rentals of new vehicles. Here's my problem. I don't play them. Why not? Because when I earn one, I'm usually at the end of my time to play, and I'm not going to be online for another 24, 48, 72 hours, in which case it's just a taken up garbage space in my garage. Why can't we take rental vehicles and make them like personal reserves or make them like expendables where I can hold it for 24 hours and play it within the month, 2 months, 3 months that you guys have that vehicle for sale?
So for that one, I think, and to be clear,
were you planted here by my monetization guy? Did he give you that question?
I don't know him, but if he'll pay me.
So the policy of rentals and how that goes is actually different in the different territories. So Paul is actually the best guy for that.
North America, we have a guy. It's called the monetization guy, and Meathead picks on him. He's a really good guy, right? Because he believes that playing is really good and paying is something that can sort of happen. And he actually brought forward this whole idea of we're going to have rentals, we're going to have try before you buy, we're going to put them in your garage, you're going to be able to take them out, there's going to be no problem. And a lot of the other people around the company and in other regions were going, you're absolutely out of your mind. But he did it, and well, you know, it was a little bumpy at the beginning. There was slightly too many mutzes on the Wednesday, and that sort of confused people for a while. And you know, the forums caught on fire because they thought we were up to darkness. But
that was the Mutz Maker.
Mutz Maker,
special
that's
feature.
right. Mutz Maker that we had on Wednesday. But what's actually happened as we've done more of it is people have really liked the idea of rentals. And they've gone, actually, I like the idea that you're saying I can go and drive it around to see whether it's any good or not. What we're not very good at is exactly the point you just made up, which is when it made up the point you raised. What about people who unlock the rental and then don't have enough time to do it? And so he has a document right now which makes almost exactly the point you're making, where he's gone, here's what we need to do. We need to be able to say, we have a rental, we have a tank, why don't you try it out? And then he follows it up with, and if you then like the rental and the tank should be available, regardless when you try it. So he's actually trying to address that. He also, by the way, thinks that we should allow people to just rent a tank. Like he's completely way out on the thinking. So his idea, which matches your idea, which is if there's a new tank that I want to try out, I should be able to try it out on my own terms, in my own time, and my own gameplay experience. I should be able to do it without feeling forced to do crazy stuff to unlock it, and I should be able to enjoy it. And he fundamentally agrees with you, and right now we're walking his system through. So I think in short period of time, your question will be answered happily.
Well, and one of work around that would probably be a lease to buy.
Like I
You
said,
know, where I can
are you here from him? Do you have his document?
I've just been doing sales and marketing for 30 years, and I figured, you know.
You two should have a coffee. You'll get on great.
It looks we have one more question, and that's it.
And then there'll be more questions later back up in there. They're not going anywhere.
Okay,
They're here.
You get one. I see a list, so pick one.
Most of them's already been covered. Just to follow up on his thing with rental vehicles, don't send us with a crew. You're taking up our barrack space that we have to pay for.
Now, what the question you're missing there is what other sort of stuff are we doing about all that in the future, which is awesome. Just we can't talk about any of it, which will probably make a lot of that go away.
Okay. My other question.
Your only question.
My real question. Rampage. I never really had a chance to try Rampage. When I try and get into it, it just never popped up for me with a queue. I know it's gone. Any thoughts of bringing it down to like tier 8? Because tier 8 seems to be much better balanced. It's not as grindy to get to tier 10.
As in Rampage mode?
Yes.
So right now with Rampage, the reason we took it down was a combination of things. One is that there were some fundamental flaws with the gameplay that weren't really attractive and that we didn't really feel good about, and so we pulled it out for that. Two was we just weren't getting the match, right? Like you said, getting people to show up was harder because there just weren't as many people who were into it, which I think honestly goes back to the first point. But then three, it was fighting for audience with random and with a lot of other things, and it just wasn't creating the kind of environment. And so what you had was a lot of people going into Rampage not because they wanted to play Rampage, but because they were figuring out how to gimp through and get their T22s, which is what led to us doing the big nerf on the T22s and so on. So right now, we're not at the point, like just taking down tiers, which was your exact suggestion, wouldn't fix some of the other core issues that exist in the mode. We see things that we would have to do with it to bring it back. That's not on our schedule right now to deal with, but what we have done actually is we've kind of, it's going to sound horrible, but we've kind of harvested bits and pieces of its organs and features that we like from Rampage to build into other things. Yeah, you see some of that coming in. Certainly the Paris map, obviously, is another example, right? And we've taken features and elements from that in some of the special event modes that we've built out so far that you've seen already, and then some other ones that we're actually thinking about now and building out. So we're getting the benefit of that mode right now, but we aren't at the point where it's in any sort of contemplation to bring it back itself right now.
I'm not in it for the missions to get the tank. I just want to try that.
I'll just want to specify, because when normally developers say fundamental issues with the gameplay, they do not provide specific details. It's kind of, for Rampage, is super simple. In its essence, it's a capture the flag style of gameplay, and running away with a flag, turning with your rear to the enemies is not the smartest thing you can do in a tank.
In our game, yeah.
Like, generally speaking, this is what we refer as a fundamental flaw with Rampage. That
was
slipped
big.
through. Yes, we got it out as Thane said.
Yeah. Spawn camping was another issue. There were a lot of sort of core things.
So that's why in that specific form it will not get back, because it will still have that fundamental
That's
issue.
wonderful. We're going to have to pay $10,000 if we're here afternoon when these people are here. I've got to quickly call it up. Thank you very much. Round of applause for the people who turn up.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll be able to talk to you again. Gold Meters up at the crushing area. We'll be there. Thank you very much for being here. We're going to cut this video together. It's going to be out soon, but you guys got to see it beforehand. And girls, if you want to tweet about it or talk about it, feel free. And we'll see you on the battlefield. So we'll meet you.